What's up, PC?
Tired. The shower I thought was gonna wake me up. It didn't. I should have took a cold shower.
There you go. That's a mistake.
I know. Well, I don't want to be up all night. So, hey, Melanie.
I think, yeah, hot shower at night. Let the body release some of the. My gosh, dude. And cold shower, I don't know, whenever you feel like it, I suppose. You there? I think we lost Patrick already. Hey, T-Bird. I'm not sure what's going on with Patrick there. Oh. All right, sorry about that. We got a week ahead of us. We'll be going to Fittest of the Coast, South Carolina. We're going to preview that tomorrow. Yes, sorry, Melanie. I don't know exactly what happened. Just barely afternoon, depending on where you are. We'll do a Fittest of the Coast preview tomorrow, but today we're going to kind of look backwards at several things that have happened over the last couple of weeks. We got Patrick back now.
Sorry, I had my VPN on.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to turn it off. Yeah, because that's the only way I can watch US Netflix and get HBO Max and basically just hide away. Mac, that's or just hide from the U.S. government, even though I work for them, so it doesn't really work. But when I do that, it kind of slows down. I mean, the internet here is actually really good. So I had to turn the VPN off. So sorry about that.
Do you have an order planned for this stuff?
Yeah, of course I do. So let's start off with let's start off with events. Let's start off with the events that happened this past weekend. Actually, no, we're going to work backwards. So obviously 2 weekends ago we had Crucible, which was the same week.
I mean, you and I say obviously, but I bet that most people don't even know that was happening or what it is.
Well, I am talking to you though, specifically.
Okay.
But no, Crucible, and not to be mistaken with Crash Crucible. It's the second year in its existence. Let's see if I can find their Instagram here. But they had a competition going on the same weekend as Wadapalooza in Abu Dhabi. Okay, let me pull this up. Sure, it's tabbing. But what makes this really unique, this competition where, let's see if I pull it up here. This competition very unique. So when I was at Storm Games, a lot of the athletes who were doing Storm Games, and even the ones that live in the UAE, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're sticking around." One, because the weather's a lot nicer than say Norway or some in other places in Europe. But the thing about this is it has a ridiculous prize purse and the format of it. So the prize purse is, if I can find a post here. Oh, prize money, where is it? Upgrade. I don't know what that means. Prize money upgrade. But first place gets 100. What is that? It's basically
you can basically divide by 4.
Yeah. So that's going to be
25K. I think 100's like around 25K, 10K.
Well, what the exchange rate is. AED to USD as of today. Oh shoot, I forgot a zero. That's about okay. So it's 27,000.
But I also I could have sworn that on the. Sorry, prize was more than this. I thought it was 120 by the time they paid it out.
Well, this was right before the competition.
Anyway, good prize purse. And tell it, you were saying about the format.
Yeah, so the format is obviously it plays out to 21st place. So you're talking about anywhere from 12th to 21st, you're going to make about $700, $800. So that's pretty cool, just for kind of showing up. But the format is, I believe it's 7 workouts and it's tiered. So, oh, it is. It was
Look,
first place for 20. So you're right. So this is the workout, or I mean, this is the prize purse. So you're right, 120. So 120, that's over 30.
hmm
Yeah. So I believe it's how many workouts is it? Well, I guess we can go to leaderboard to find out. 1 second. But the
Well, just say,
leaderboard,
while you're pulling up the leaderboard, I mean, I'll just say it was one of the things that we talked about going into Dubai this year, when there were some people who were maybe trying to downplay that competition for whatever reason. Is
mhm,
these opportunities for athletes who, yeah, they might not be the top 10 best athletes in the world. Maybe they're not even the top 50 best athletes in the world, but they're training as if they are, and they're training to want to be. And you can't just become one of those athletes overnight. You got to put in the work. And when something like this pops up and it's a legitimate opportunity for somebody, in this case, definitely was Miko Liliorg, to
mhm,
earn the biggest paycheck that he's ever earned. What he's, if first of all, it's like the years of work to get to that point are paying off literally, and secondarily, it creates more incentive for them to continue, or not, or even opportunity in some cases to continue to pursue becoming one of the top 50, 20, 10, whatever guys or girls in the world in competitive fitness. So um, that's why you and I make it a priority to talk about these types of competitions and hopefully bring more attention to them outside of the immediate vicinity within which they're happening.
yeah, because so kind of go back to format and then circle back with what you said. It's basically 5 workouts, and you have 40 minutes. So it's like you have, I think it's like 5 minutes of establish a 7 rep max front squat, and then you get like a 2 minute break, and then you go right into the 3 minute max rep strict pull ups, and that's weighted, by the way. And then you get like, I think you have like, 3 minutes, and then you get like another 5 minutes off, and then you go right in 7 minutes. But this all has to be completed in 40 minutes. So think about that. You know, that's 40K, or no, 30K for 40 minutes of work, and less than that because there's transitions and rest time. Um, but like you said, in terms of this is something I heard of the week before. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but the second edition of it. But a lot of athletes were sticking around, especially Norwegian. Now, unfortunately, some of those Norwegians, they got sick and couldn't compete. The Verena, I think Andrea Solberg got a little ill as well, and there were some other athletes. But a lot of those athletes that competed at that competition stuck around, competed there, and they won some pretty decent prize purse, some money there. So let me pull up the leaderboard here. And how I was talking to some other agents and other athletes about this at Wadapalooza, because I think one someone asked me where Tola was, and obviously Tola is kind of a staple at Wadapalooza. He was on the boys team. He's been on multiple teams, but he wasn't there this year. The reason why is he was at the Crucible competing, and he finished third. So let's take a look at some, and you'll recognize some of these names. Obviously you mentioned Miko, who you know very well from being at you know various competitions in Scandinavia, particularly Finland. Reggie Fossa, and then Tola was third, and then you had Oldest, who Oldest is still not 100% recovered. He's about 85%. Last time I talked to him, 90% from his surgery, but he was there, finished fourth. And then you got Toby Buckland, who just missed the podium at Storm Games the week prior. He finished sixth. Victor Helsinghoff, who finished fifth at Storm, or sixth at Storm Games, finished seventh. Kalian, I mean, these are obviously Toby, Kalian. They live in the area. Jacob Hendry, who we know Jacob. A lot of these guys live in the area. Bruno Marins, but then you had people like Victor and Tola and Uldis who came in for this event.
And
Um,
Miko Liliorg.
yeah,
Yeah, I had heard about this when I was in Dubai in December,
mhm.
and
Because Saud, yeah,
I think there's going to be an increased uh, interest in it next year as well. Like they're kind of the guy who's running it. I think he used to be involved with the DFC back in the day, and he's kind of just like building it up a little bit year by year, not necessarily going for everything on the first. Wait, Saud competed?
Yeah, this is second year. Last year.
Oh God, that's great.
But this is great. You want this is great that to see like this. Saud's not looking this as a competitor. You know, obviously he knows the guy who runs this, and
No, and
he's
Saud
supportive.
loves to compete. You know.
Yeah, and he loves to compete. But I mean, for him to finish 29th, that's 8 spots out of a podium or making money. But it's still impressive if you look at some of these athletes. You know, I mean, you got a games athlete here in Mohammed Omda who programmed the Storm Games. You know, he's a games athlete as an individual, as on a team. But
And a friend of Saud's. We had the three of us had
yeah,
coffee together in
but
Dubai a couple months ago. But
but it,
yes, and I think also what something that you and I have been talking about all year when it comes to reps ahead is you can compete in a relatively short amount of time and make some significant money, as opposed to competing over a series of days or events with very little opportunity to make money. And then some of the competitions, we'll talk about all the different competitions that are going on, but there's other ones that we'll talk about from this past couple of weeks and that we'll see over the next couple of months, even that there's not a payout like this, and it's definitely not going down 20 places.
yeah, I mean, you look at Wadapalooza. I mean, Wadapalooza is great. It's a great test and stuff like that. But if you want to be a professional athlete, why not go here? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if next year you see some athletes doing this, some more well-known athletes who aren't doing Wadapalooza. I mean, I'm half surprised to see that someone like Karen Freyova didn't compete at something like this, which we'll talk about Karen later. But on the female side, you know, guess who won?
Man, Jamie has had an incredible 2 months
Run. Yeah.
in terms of performance and financial earning just
Mhm.
through competing in the Middle East. 3
Yeah.
competitions, 3 podiums, and over 100K in her pocket.
Yeah. Not having to spend a lot of money on travel. Like this happened in Abu Dhabi where she lives at. You know, obviously, you know, Dubai is only an hour and a half drive. I think where Storm Games on was like 2.5 hours. I mean, they stayed there, but she could have easily just like not even commuted every day. But no, that's just amazing. The last 2 months, you know, she's got a first, a second. I mean, well, 2 firsts and a second. Um, and as I said, made less than just a little bit over 100K for doing that. And yeah, and then this person that finished second.
Yeah, Sirio Mehash, actually, she was listed on a team in Wadapalooza to compete. And I just had a feeling she wasn't going to be there. I asked her the week of, and she said no, they replaced her with I think Anna McCarthy or Anita McCarthy or something like that. But anyway, she opted to do this instead. And again, this is probably the biggest paycheck she's ever earned through competition, and she's been on the tour, grinding this season. Even the girl that's in third, she's been in the Asia semifinals the past couple of years out of Russia, but finishing 12, 13, 14, something like that. And here she comes and has an opportunity to compete in a more specialized style of competition. With obviously there was the running, but there's a decent amount of strength involved in this competition. She's on the stronger side, and she's able to finish ahead of someone like Julia Kato, who is going to be much more well known worldwide.
Yeah. And then, Evie, they competed the week before, along with Jamie Simmons, and just kind of going down, Gemma came in from South Africa to compete at this. I forgot what 11th that placing got. I think she won like a grand, yeah. So it's pretty cool. I mean, just that there are opportunities out there like that. You just got to find them, and I think that's kind of where we have that responsibility, maybe letting athletes know that because, otherwise, I mean, there aren't any other shows that are talking about this. I mean,
Well, let's maybe this is a good time to address kind of ironically fits comment
Yeah.
here. It would be nice for athletes to have a worldwide directory of sorts for these competitions if there isn't one already. I know they pop up everywhere in the world. Um, I actually have a fairly robust calendar of competitions. The hard part for me is that not all the dates are publicly known, and
Mhm.
so I'm hesitant to release. I don't want to accidentally release a date for of a competition that's trusted us to know that when it hasn't happened. However, I have before, Patrick has before, and we will again encourage athletes to reach out to us if they're looking for things like this. Um, Sometimes we can say, hey, we know there's going to be this competition happening in January in wherever country. Um, Sometimes we can potentially direct them to someone else who can give them that information. I know in the past I've tried to release articles that have this stuff, and they just don't get very much engagement. And then Barbell Spin put out an article that has something like this, but it was so limited basically to the competitions that his friends are involved with, and then the ones that everyone knows about, that it's not actually doing what you're suggesting for the athletes.
Mhm.
For the time being, yeah, there's not a great public place to go and necessarily look for this stuff, but I will reiterate that if you are an athlete or represent an athlete or just know of an athlete that is looking for some competitions that are maybe not as well known, you can reach out to us and we'd be happy to help where we can.
Yeah. Um, I just want to show you this before we move on to the next one, but this is the competition. 0 to a minute and a half. You have a minute and a half to establish a 7 rep max front squat, and then you get basically 3.5 minutes rest transition. Then you go to weighted strict pull ups, 3 minutes of that, and then you have another 3 minutes off, and then a 700-meter shuttle run, and then you go right into a 5 rep max shoulder press, which I think Tola won, believe it or not. And then
His strict press is insane, dude.
I know,
He
I
warms
know,
up. He warms up with like 90 kilos or something
yeah,
per reps.
easily, you know. And then goes right into a max distance. You get 3 minutes off and right into a max distance concept two biker for 10 minutes, and that's it. And then you're done, and that's it. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, we talk about reps head a lot in terms like, oh, you can get X amount of dollars for doing less than 10 minutes of work, but this is pretty cool too, because it pays out to so many different levels to up to 21st place, which you don't see that I mean, the games doesn't even do that, which is weird because it's like, I wonder why they picked 21, you know? It's just
Who
kind of
knows?
interesting.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm curious. Do you like that they pay out to 21, or would you rather have him like maybe take 5, 6 of those payments away and distribute some money to each the winner of each individual part of the test? Like if you win the 5 rep max, you get $1,000. If you win the concept two, you get $1,000.
You know what? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if next year they don't do that.
Yeah,
But
I think. I mean, either way, it's a lot of opportunity and money going to some different people, which is cool.
Mhm,
But sometimes, like this is some of these tests are so specialists,
mhm,
and I don't think there's a necessarily a reward for beating the field by 50 pounds instead of 10 pounds on one of the lifts. But
mhm.
um, maybe put just a little incentive on there to see some crazy stuff. Someone really send it on the bike, even though they're kind of out of it otherwise. Something like that.
Yeah, here's what is this stuff? Strict press right here. But it looked like a cool event. I mean, there's Victor. You see a lot of people with their pain faces on, and yeah, I'd be really interested. I don't know. Unfortunate competition corner. They just list the places. They don't tell them like what they did. But I'd be very interested to see what Tola got on the strict press. I guess I could ask him,
Yeah,
but
that'd be great data to have just in general. Man, I wonder if I can
mhm.
get that. Barkley would like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. You um, that's a big dude. That guy looks like Francis Ngannou. But yeah,
Some
that was
of
the Crucible. Huh?
some of those physiques in that video are great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so that's the Crucible. Like I said, here's Bruno with his 5,000. I mean, look, it's 11th place. He gets 5,000 AED, which is equivalent to, I think that's like $1,500, or like we could divide by four. So it's about 1,500. So, it's just like it's really cool. Makes them, uh, yeah. But just something to keep an eye on. And plus, Abu Dhabi in freaking this.
That guy at Dino Smajic in 19th is a good friend of Luca's. He's super strong. I wouldn't be surprised if he had really good score on one or two of the lifts.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Luca probably does this next year instead of Wadapalooza.
I think there
Uh,
was a purpose for him going to Wadapalooza this
yeah,
year, and it
100,
was fulfilled.
100, 100%, 100%. Um, you know, because there are some decent athletes here. So that's Crucible, and that happened last weekend while Wadapalooza was going on. So there was another competition going on.
Lynn, you want those hats? You got to tell me where to send those hats to.
And then that kind of takes us into this week. A lot of stuff going on this week. We had the Fittest Experience. We had the ATA games. Let's start with the ATA games. This is something that I was originally going to go to. When I told you about it, I mean, you got to meet the director of it. The people that know the ATA games, if you follow Norwegians, it's basically a supply company. The guy runs is amazing guy. He's the one that kind of introduced me to Sahar. Was actually like Sahar's manager before I kind of helped her out. So the ATA games is something that they use if you remember, they're having like the Krieger League, and they use the Krieger League as kind of a qualifier for this. And this paid out to the athletes, and it was held in an affiliate. And the cool thing about this is the first event. First event was something we have never seen in a CrossFit competition or a functional fitness competition, and that was
No, it
skiing.
reminded me of cross country skiing. It reminded me of the on water rowing race from Strength and Depth
So
sanctionals years, where it was like, okay, we row on machines all the time. Well, we ski on machines all the time, but this is, as far as I know, that's the only time I've seen open water rowing, and this is the only time I've seen cross country skiing as part of a multi competition event in the fitness world.
yeah, and if you know anything about Norwegians, that's what I mean. A lot of them do that. I mean, I was talking to some like Ingrid. Ingrid's like, "Oh, it's been 5 years since I've skied," and but they've all most Norwegians have skied before, and then you have someone like Matilda, who is just, I mean, one of the best skiers out there. I mean, after Kristen Holta, I mean, she wins it. Vesla she's a really good athlete, and the Oda, I mean, it's just really unique. And then on the men's side, I don't know much about Andreas,
Yeah, he
but
was
I
on
do,
he's from the Krieger teams. He was at Wadapalooza, competing on the team of 3 last week as well.
yeah, which is ridiculous. Oh yeah, Andre, yeah, duh. I met him at the after party. Um, but that went on this weekend, 2-day competition. Let me see, pull that up again. And the overall winner, what an offseason. We're just talking about Jamie Green or Jamie Simmons. But what about Matilda? Who I wanted to kind of joke with Matilda. The only reason why she won is because Jamie wasn't there. Um, for those that know, it's like Matilda keeps on getting like one spot behind Jamie, whether it was at Storm Games or at Dubai. But what an off season for her, especially coming off a season where she went team, and I think that helped her more than anything. Kind of made her. She had the 2023 season wasn't the best season. She was one of the cuts. Just kind of struggled with some things, but 2024 kind of just made the move to Miami, went on team, just learned a lot about her, just fell in love with the sport again. And then this offseason, I mean, this has to be probably her fifth or sixth competition this offseason.
Yeah, one of the best off-season competitions from any athlete, really. It wasn't
Yeah.
just the podiums in Dubai and UAE and winning this, but also Belgrade
So,
games and the pairs competition at Oslo Throwdown that her and Henrik participated in. I mean, they looked incredible at that. And that was the first time I saw her in leading into this series of competitions, and I was like, wow, this is, I think, the best version of Matilda that we've ever seen. Um, and I guess that's kind of, well, I don't know what she's gonna do this year. That's something we'll talk about later on, I think. But
yeah, I mean, all indications individual. I mean, I think that's. I mean, I don't think there's any secret to that.
no, but what I mean is,
Oh, like how she's going to do overall this season. I mean, I
well,
don't like
also
what her
also
season looks like.
Sorry, something's super sensitive with my mic today. It just keeps any nuances like unplugging it. We'll get to that later on. Let's keep going.
Yeah. But, a really great, field. I mean, especially, I mean, just tells you it's like you can just do something like this in Norway and just have a bunch of, like, quality athletes. I mean, it's Ingrid's first competition after having a baby. She finishes 8th, but, she didn't do the ski and still finished 8th. I mean, a 4th, a 3rd, a 5th. Um, they had a really cool thing, a standard on the rope climb. I'll show it to you, but, Marie Rogenstad, who's probably an up and comer. She podiumed at the Oslo Throwdown. 19 years old, and then of course Oda. I really, how what I think of her. I think she's a rising star. I think she's the next one of the next Norwegians to look out for. I mean, very impressed by her, and this finishes, like for a third of she won an event, fourth and a third. You got to see her kind of, at Dubai, just kind of just come out of nowhere and win that first event, and then just kind of had a really steady weekend.
Yeah, she's incredibly strong and incredibly powerful. Even when I'm just looking at this competition, though, I look at the final, it was ring muscle ups and thrusters, and it was a significantly worse finish than the rest of her finishes. And, makes me think that maybe there's still a little bit of rounding out that she can do, unless there was something going on that workout or event that I didn't know about. But yeah, there's definitely potential with Uda.
Yeah, I really like her. On the men's side, um, some familiar names, not as many familiar names, but
There are some familiar names. I mean, but this
yeah.
guy that won, I was trying to look up things
Hmm.
about him. He competes very seldomly,
Yeah.
um, and hasn't competed much in recent. If you go to view profile, like you'll see some competitions that pop up. They seem to be sporadic. Like I wonder if this guy. I don't actually know much about him. I kind of want to ask Roger because he was competing in some competitions of Rogers a few years ago.
Yeah.
Um, but like look at these competitions. They're not anything
Yeah.
notable for the last couple of years. He did a qualifier, and there's just these competitions that I don't know what they are.
Right.
Um, so this was to me was like kind of out of nowhere when you consider Marius Pettersson and Henrik Negar that were second and third, Andreas fourth. Like those guys are really good and like
Mhm.
training to compete and to compete well. And this guy beat them all. So it was a close battle, but I don't know really who he is or where he came from.
Yeah, I don't know much about him either. I mean, obviously, I was planning on going. Kind of upset that I didn't make it there, but yeah, that's part of the reason. It's like was to kind of get to know people like this, especially in Norway, where I just think it's just they're up to something. They're doing something special there. Um, but this what is that? I need to find it. That rope climb. But it was really cool. There was a legless rope climb, but you you couldn't touch the ground with your feet. You had to use your hand and touch the pad, and then you went back up.
Hmm.
So it was yeah. So it was just really cool. I need to find a video on it. Maybe this is it. But yeah,
Toby
here.
Toby was at the Crucible in the week before. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Well.
he's got one more competition coming up.
Mhm.
Barkley, 7th at IF3 Worlds this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I said IF3. It's something to keep an eye on. I mean, if you want to see some of these athletes before they, I mean, they already have shown that kind of like, I've kind of been working on a document myself where just kind of tracking the history of the IF3 and some of these athletes that have competed have gone on to like bigger and better things. Um, so that was the ATA games. Just really cool. I think it's only going to grow. I think it's very unique. I mean, the whole community came out and watched it. They had it at an affiliate there. Um, and it's just a really cool thing. It's always good when you can have like a local comp at a local affiliate and bring all the top names there. Because this gym it's about 45-minute, maybe 30-minute drive from CrossFit Oslo, but they're really so. I mean, you've been there, but they're they're all associated with it one way or the other with each other, and they support each other. So that was the ATA games, and then also that happened this weekend is probably something you did have heard of. Brian covered it last year as part of the broadcast, but the Fittest Experience 2025.
Yeah, and this is I was kind of bummed that I wasn't going at first, but man, dude, I was so worn down just from the whole off season. I didn't take any real break after I got back from Dubai and Italy. Just started full grind on oh baby, what's up, Pepe? Full grind on Wadapalooza prep, and then obviously, I mean, that week was, the more they think about it, like that was one of the coolest and craziest and hardest and fun and challenging experiences that I've ever had. Um, and so I just been sleeping a ton actually, and just was following along this year for remotely. Jeff was there, of course, local and volunteering his time. Appreciate you, Jeff. And weather was great this year. It did look that way. They've been running for so many years, that competition, so they do a lot of things really well there. Um, I thought it was kind of a smallish field in the pro division. I mean, they only, I think, accept 20. And look, this is, technically speaking, the game season has already begun, and this event is a qualifier for another event that's a qualifier for the games later in the spring. So for athletes that are pursuing that, and there's some athletes that never had a chance to make a semifinal, definitely never had a chance to make the games, that are going to have chances to make whatever these qualifying events are, and potentially to the games this year. I don't know how much prestige it'll carry compared to previous seasons, but it doesn't, like, the thing that hasn't changed, if you go all the way back to the regional days, is that there's a huge contingency of athletes that are training every day in the gym with the hope of X, and that X used to be regionals, and then it was kind of semifinals, and then it was so hard to make semifinals, maybe it was like quarterfinals. Well, now this year, even though it's kind of barbaric in the design, there's a lot of opportunity for athletes in many different ways to compete. And that's kind of what I was hinting at with Matilda, and you mentioned with Karen and some of these other athletes. And we're gonna talk about the WFP in a little bit, just because their rosters are finalized now. But for these athletes that competed this weekend, if you look on the podium, they're holding something that says confirmed, I think, or qualified, is that the podium athletes earned a spot to the TFX championship. I think it's called. That's going to be happening in a couple months.
Yeah, in Oklahoma City. So Casey Strong for CrossFit Overtake, Jacob Marlowe, who's obviously he's won this before. He won it 2 years ago, I believe. It's kind of a staple. He's there I think he's from the Houston area, so not too far. But
Casey Strong, I think, is usually on the Overtake density team, and he almost always competes on a team. And there's often this kind of debate of if you're historically a team athlete, how will you do in an individual competition? And granted that this field is, like Matt Brady, Marlowe, Raphael Sanson, these guys have made semifinals before, but they haven't done much at semifinals. They're middle to bottom of the pack there. But it doesn't matter. Like, Casey came in and won this thing. I wouldn't have picked him to win it. And it's, to me, it's like, I've seen him compete on teams plenty of times. He's good. And Trayvon was on the roster. He's listed all the way at the bottom. So he wasn't.
He didn't want it.
He would have been my pick to win if he was competing. But I want to give credit to Casey. Like, he threw his name in the ring here and he got the job done, and it's pretty cool for him.
Yeah, it's just rough to see, like, Trayvon. It's been a rough couple of weeks with him because he had to withdraw from Wadapalooza as well. So hopefully everything's all right with him. Obviously I'm a big Trayvon fan, and this is usually a competition. This is where I first saw Trayvon compete as an individual, was in 2021, when they had just like this stacked roster on men and women's side, and he did really well on that men's side. It was the first time he kind of, it was just really cool. Women's side, some more names, there's a couple names there you might be familiar with, but Caitlin Sanders with the win, beating Hannah Black pretty convincingly too.
Well, I think Caitlin Sanders is probably, relative to how good she is, almost known by nobody. Unless you know her, you probably don't know her. She's been basically 20th in the North America East semifinal the last 2 years, but I don't think she's had any. Like Hannah Black is more well known because she wins events, because she snatches 230 pounds. It's like when you do something like that, even if you don't win competitions, you get attention and you get name recognition.
Look at
For
that. Blair Cheney, 195.
Gosh, I mean,
It's
yeah. So that's why you know Hannah Black more than you know Caitlin Sanders. But Caitlin Sanders has been really good. I mean, she won the Monster Games last year, first 4 Monster Games. She got top 5 at Crash Crucible. Like as I mentioned, she's been to the North America East semifinals in the field of 60 and the field of 40. She finished 20th one year and 21st the other year, I think. So, when I saw this roster, those are the only 2 people I thought could win this competition based on the athletes that were in the field. And actually Hannah was not like in out of the woods at all. She tied with Tracy Johnson, 5 points ahead of Amy Hosking and only 15 points ahead of Faith Stewart. So this was Caitlin Sanders and then everybody else.
um, I mean, it was nice seeing like Rachel Fricker and Brittany Chestnut, who we got to know pretty well at West Coast last year. Very just an amazing story and her like kind of like comeback. To see her still out there competing, that's really cool. And then see if there's anybody else. If anyone withdrew, yeah, Caitlin
What's
Bernadine.
up, Mike? Yeah, Caitlin Bernardine. Never gonna sleep on her again, especially since Mike's listening. But
Yeah,
I think she would have been a threat. I think she would have taken second if she was in this competition.
probably
Um,
she'd have a really good start. She would have won that first event. And
she's
probably
like,
would
I mean, she's much more similar to Hannah Black. Is that
yeah.
she's got some home run potential. They're both good across the board in general. And whereas Caitlin Sanders doesn't have that like blip outlier, but she's just a little bit better at everything. Caitlin had
Yeah,
bronchitis. Rachel Fricker was my girlfriend's teammate at Wadapalooza. Nice. Julia.
look at that. So many pool boy all about there for you're going to see pool boy this weekend. Pretty pumped
I
up
know.
about
I
that.
know.
Pool boy, should I hire a photographer to take pictures of you?
Oh, that's right. I need to text that girl.
Yeah, you need to do. Yeah. Um, so TFX, again, it's becoming one of those I like to call mid-major, like a mid-major competition. But now I love how they're kind of using this as a qualifier to get into the bigger competition, which is now a semifinal. I mean, you know, um, pretty well ran. Like so, we know a lot of people that are involved in it, whether it be Jeffrey. I mean, Jamie went there every year. Jamie goes there to kind of help out in the ops section. They had a they always have like a top notch media team. This year, Carlos was running that media team. They just do things the right way. It's kind of it's yeah, it's a good job. RX Men. I want to bring it over to RX Men because I think the winning weight was 295 for pro. And if we go down here at the bottom of the leaderboard, where is he? Don
He's in.
Young finished 38th, representing barbell spin, but he did win with a lift of 295 pounds. So he would have tied for the win at in the pro division.
He's training for his specialist role
Yeah.
this year. Is that right?
Yep. For the Bandits, is the Houston Bandits or whatever? I forgot what the Houston team's name. But it looked like
Oh
I mean, I
man.
don't know if you've seen a video of it, but it looked like a really easy lift for him. Fernando Flores with 290. So yeah, some strong guys in that RX men.
I
Fernando,
give. John, I think has competed in the RX men's division there 3 years in a row, and I think he improved the last 2 years from the previous year. But he was in the 50s and then he was in the 30s the last 2 seasons. But it's still cool that he shows up and competes. So
yeah,
I'm sure he coaches some people that compete there as well, and it's always motivating to have your coach in a competition. So
exactly. And plus, like I said, you can do this stuff in the gym, but can you do it under pressure of competition? Like I said, if he's moving on to he's moving on to the grid league to be a specialist, a weightlifting specialist. So this is a really good test for him to kind of see what he does under pressure in a competition environment. So, good for him. I mean, he is a very, very strong dude, especially when it comes to snatching and clean and jerks. So you know, yeah, good luck with him. Good luck with that. Good job. Way to show up. Way to represent the spin. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. Was there any? Oh, another competition that went on that had actually a lot of people, and it's a little bit difficult to track down this information because their leaderboard is just like they change it all the time. Is there was a Hyrox event in Las Vegas? I think most of you are pretty aware of that. But let's go. I think it was the pro doubles men. Maybe they weren't pro doubles, but Chandler Smith was on the fourth place team with Dylan Scott.
Yeah, I can't even keep track of all the different people that we know who competed in this thing.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the women's side in the pro doubles, look who finished second. Now,
Yeah,
granted,
they looked great.
they're way behind Lucy Proctor and Joanna. I mean, these two right here finished 1-2, I think, in the individual pro women, and they qualified for
Yeah,
the.
that's a crazy time. 57. Fuck.
Yeah, no, they're pros. I mean, like Lucy Proctor, she's that's one of Snorri and Lucille's newest signings as a athlete for Bachland. But yeah, she's a stud. But yeah, Jesse and Lauren. I mean, that's pretty cool for them to finish second. And then if
And
you look at
5 seconds. I mean, that was a race.
mhm, came down to the wall balls. So and then you see fourth. There's a familiar name there.
Haley.
Yeah. Um, it doesn't go down that far, but let's go. Where was it? We did have.
Noah Olson did the Miami Marathon this weekend, not Hyrox. I think yeah, Lynn was on it there.
Mhm.
Shout out Ellie and Justin.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's go. What was it? The doubles. Let's see, I'm trying to find all this stuff here.
Dude, do you see the
Leader-
trash talk between Jake Marconi and Cooper Marsh?
yeah, I saw that. That's what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to remember what division they were in. Shoot, was it the Open?
It has to be. They're not old enough for any of the Masters divisions.
Oh no, it was the pro doubles. It was the pro doubles, men. But I think they were in the. It doesn't show their overall place. Where is it?
It doesn't go down that low.
Yeah, but there's like a here it is right here. Like they finished at 106.34, and this is the under 29 division. They finished fifth.
Keep going down.
Hmm.
See if there's well, yeah,
I said this is
Cooper and his partner may not have qualified for the under 29 division. Then
no, probably not.
they might
But
be in
this
that
is
30 to
oh
39 division.
look who 40-49. Look who won.
Adam Knifer,
Yeah,
dude,
and
I'm telling you, there's so many freaking people at this.
that's a respectable time there too.
Dude,
Very
Adam,
respectable.
that guy is so impressive. Hey, Michael Pass and Ryan Schaefer. Michael Pass is like that 6'3" guy from
Yeah.
Michigan that was on 10th place team at the games a couple years back.
Trying to think. Let's go women. I know Trissa Smith competed. Her and her mom competed in this game. That's a cool thing. I'm like I said. I mean, that's a cool thing about CrossFit. I mean, High Rocks is that it's fun. I know there's some people like, oh, they're doing High Rocks now. I'm like, why not? They're having fun.
Well, you think
When
about
when else?
the other aspect of what we didn't really talk about with the Crucible. That's true with
Mhm.
Hyrox. That also was true with the Reps Ahead community division, which we didn't really talk that much about the fact that Reps Ahead was introduced to the community in Wadapalooza on Saturday afternoon. There were a
Mhm.
few dozen people that had a chance to do that. These are things that are doable in an hour, in a day. They're
Yeah.
not 2-3 day long competitions. And for a lot of people's lives, Hyrox, that Crucible style event, these are way more approachable ways to apply your fitness and also fit it within whatever else you have going on a weekend.
Mhm. Trying to look at the pro. Um,
I
but
mean, well, you've got to get to the pro men under 24 at some point. because
Yeah.
the winner of that is James Sprague.
If I can get to it, pro men.
Oh, you did preface this whole thing by saying that the website was a little
Yeah,
maybe there's
I'm not used to this new site or whatever. They're just putting top 10, which is kind of ridiculous. They used to put everyone's results, or maybe, yeah, James Sprague, 103. Ooh, what a
can you
race
talk
between
about a
him and
battle? Yeah, one
yeah.
second.
And look at Nolan Jenkins right there too.
And how
And
about
look at
in sixth
Spencer.
place?
Look at
Yeah.
Spencer in 6. That's what a
James threw me off because I didn't know if he was doing it individually or with his brother. Because he had
yeah.
his earlier in the day, his dad also did it. I wonder if you go to the 50, 59, if he's 55 to 59, did Pat make the top 10? No.
Yeah, don't see me
But
there.
his dad had done it earlier in the day, and he was giving a shout out to his dad. And then he said something about his brother. And I didn't know for sure at that point if they were doing singles or doubles. But yeah, I mean, incredible for James to win that. And the guy is just, he's just like, I'm having a hard time finding words to describe. He's just in the rhythm right now. Like
Yeah,
everything
he's
is,
feeling it. It's
yeah,
that
he's
confidence. It's that championship confidence, I think, and we've known James for a while, and he had that confidence even when he wasn't, winning the games or these other competition. So now it's like it's you have that confidence.
why'd you pause on this screen instead of the one that James Sprague is on?
Oh, well, I was trying to compare. Like James is only 2 minutes off, or yeah, 2 minutes off the top 10 time, and these are the pros.
And when he says he qualified for Worlds, does that mean in that division, the 24 under 24 division? I'm assuming.
I don't know, maybe. Like I said, I'm not very, very up to speed
Yeah,
with that.
maybe something that you and I could stand to learn a little bit more about.
Yeah.
Wait, was this at the
This
same this at the same event?
yes. This
Yeah.
was an amazing race right here between Dylan Scott and Hunter McIntyre. It went down like Hunter was they just kept it going back and forth. Hunter was winning, but Dylan Scott basically grabbed the lead on the sled push, which is Dylan Scott's a really taller athlete. He looks like a runner, whereas Hunter, he's the show pony. He's built like a CrossFitter. But he had like a 9, I don't know, maybe like a 12 to 9 rep lead on the wall balls. Hunter came in, was able to knock it down to 3, but then he broke. And then it just kind of fell apart from there. He took like 3 other breaks, whereas Dylan Scott, I think, only took 2 breaks and held on for the win. But it was fun. I've never been like that fun to. I mean, it was funny because I was watching Hiller's channel. Hiller was actually basically watching it and talking about it and kind of like doing some play by play of it. And it was fun to watch. If you get a chance, watch that recap of it. And Hunter's not a big fan of Hiller's, but Hiller was talking. Well, it's like he's a big fan of Hunter's. And Hunter looked good.
Yes, that's a common theme is that
Yeah,
a lot of people don't have a hard time believing what Hiller says, which is that he doesn't not like people.
yeah,
It's not like if he's made a video about you, whatever it is, it's almost always not because he doesn't like you. It's something else. And I don't try to do analysis of his psychology, but I do know from spending time with him that he's usually not making videos just because he doesn't like you.
yeah,
As far as this goes, people speaking negatively about Hyrox, like to me, this is it's kind of no different than people speaking negatively about Dubai or about Reps Ahead or about any other competitive fitness outlet. It's actually, I mean, look, I'm assuming that these are people that are somehow related to Savan and Spin and those types of groups. I don't know who else they would be talking about here, but those people have taken a stance that they are for CrossFit. But if you're for CrossFit, then you are for the development of health and fitness on a global scale. And so it doesn't make any sense not to promote Hyrox or Reps Ahead or any other competitive outlet for fitness. It's against what you say that you stand for. So if the stance that you've taken is with CrossFit, then you must also understand that that means everything that CrossFit has created in terms of the development of the health and fitness world, both as a human population and as a competitive outlet, there's obviously going to be things that are offshoots of something that's that globally impactful as CrossFit has been. And if they really want the tsunami of chronic disease to be slowed down, then they will support all of this stuff. And you know who else they would support is us, who's going out around the world and traveling to these places to meet these communities and meet these competitions that are providing outlets for the thing that they say that they love and eat and breathe and want to see succeed everywhere. So to me, it's extremely contrarian the way that they're going about doing that. And I've resisted talking about it for a long time, but we don't mind any of the things that they promote because they're all for the betterment of human like psychology, the human composition globally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they're speaking negatively about this, I think it's much more of a personal thing for them than actually some that they think this is a bad thing. There, we finally found Ellie and Justin.
Yeah. They're the mixed pairs. And Emily Ruthwell and Phil, fresh off of Wadapalooza, just like Justin. So,
Yeah,
you
dude,
know,
those are some good times, man.
Rachel Clousing too. Well, you'll see better times in the mix doubles. You'll see like I think the world record might be like 49 minutes or something like that.
I'm confused why this first person on this list has only one name.
He just I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Like I said, this leaderboard is kind of something.
Well, anyway,
Yeah,
look, Matt Fraser and Matt O'Keefe did this. Sammy
yeah.
Moniz and Presley Hirsch did this. I'm sure that we could spend 5-10 more minutes and we're still going to forget people that we know that were at it. I asked Patrick, I'm like, what the heck is going on in Vegas? And he's like, because Marston Sawyers did it with, I think he might have, did he do it with Dylan Scott? Did Dylan Scott do like 2 or 3 of them in one day? There was
He
some guy
might
that
have.
did.
He
Yeah.
might have because this was spread across 3 days. So they had the elite I think on Saturday, and then they had the doubles, the pro double. They had and they had the relay event. I mean, it just you can do a lot of you can
One T, but absolutely yes. Congrats to Matt and Sammy. She's pregnant again.
yeah. Was trying to build a family, like a CrossFit family. But Hyrox. So that was really cool. It was really cool to see, a lot of people going out to Vegas to support this. A lot of CrossFitters doing that. Just a lot of people in the fitness space. I heard it was a blast. You've done a Hyrox. I have yet to do a Hyrox. I know, like, I talked to John Woolley about it, and he said, like, Hyrox is like, I mean, he trains CrossFit, but he competes Hyrox because one, he says the Hyrox community is not as what I don't know, it's just not as intense, and everyone's out there just having a good time. And he said it's helped him out. I mean, he put a post up to him. The guy, Woolley's older than I am, but he's ripped now. Just from the balance between cardio and CrossFit, he's been, he looks great. He's like, yeah, it's the best I've ever looked. So, um, so that's what went on with Hyrox. So a busy weekend. I mean, especially coming off the heels of Wadapalooza, you're seeing all these athletes, and I think the Hyrox doesn't beat down on your body like a CrossFit competition does. So I would still love to.
There's one other thing that I want to mention about from last weekend.
Mhm.
That wasn't there's I don't think there were elite level athletes competing there, but to me, it's in the light of what I had just said about the global fitness community. Sid Origins was this past weekend. It's the teams of
Oh,
12.
yeah.
It's the original strength and depth competition. I think it used to be in like the December time period. And if you go back several years, Vellner had competed there. O'Keefe had competed there. There was a huge number of people that would go there and do this. There's still like 100 teams of 12 that show up and compete at this competition every year. Gavin and Ian from CrossFit Glasgow put it on alongside the same people who run UK championships, the same people who run FitFest, and not just the showcase, but the whole thing that FitFest is. They have 3 marquee events every year, and Sid Origins is the baseline one of them. There hasn't been a great outlet for these big competitions in the UK to like reach out or be broadcast outside of the UK. But this competition is one of the coolest community events that's ever existed in the sport. You don't see teams of 12 competitions anywhere else, and it's still going strong. And even though there's not like big names and stuff, because there's so many people compete in it, we know people who are intimately involved in it. I did definitely want to mention that it happened this weekend once again, and from everything I could see, it was a huge success.
Yeah, and from what I saw, I mean, it was packed. And now, granted, you have that many teams there, so it's always packed. But friends, family, it looked like a good time, and just those guys put on uh, just a stellar event. And yeah, good call on that. So worldwide,
So
worldwide. I mean, look
big,
at that.
yeah.
Look at the crowd there in the background, in the bleachers.
Yeah, the UK has, they have competitions happening all the time throughout the UK. It's a super big community competition scene, and Sid Origins is kind of the culmination of it. When you go to their like their leaderboard and you just look down the line, you would see a lot of gyms that you might recognize just over the years from semifinals or regionals back in the day. Um, so yeah, very cool. Some friends of mine that were competing there that you guys wouldn't know, but very cool competition continuing to go on in the UK. Maybe one day we'll get to it. We'll see. Although I think I have to pay a tariff to enter the UK now,
You
$12
do.
or something.
You have to go through the yeah, you have to download the app and basically get permission now. So uh,
So
in
maybe not.
other news, in other news, we have all the WFP athletes signed. 6 hours ago, it was announced that Laura Horvath was the final athlete. Um, we were kind of expecting that at some point, but here she is, which gives us 20 men, 20 women in the inaugural WFP. Spin put out a kind of like kind of a overview of it. So all you have all your athletes. Kind of tag some of that.
That's a cool design that he did.
I like that. I really like. I mean, very simple, but no, it kind of gives you a snapshot of everything there.
Will you pull up the ones that I posted
What ones you posted?
of the rosters
Where would I find that?
on my personal Instagram?
Oh, okay. I didn't know you did that. Did you just do that?
I did the men's yesterday and the women's today, and
Uh,
I don't remember what interview it was. I feel like it might have been with Talking Elite Fitness, where Will talked about the ranking system that they used to
mhm,
kind of invite athletes this season, and he mentioned that they were kind of using Rogue plus a hybrid
mhm.
uh, of kind of their own thoughts. So I just had been keeping track of the Rogue ranking system is I would say it's very limited. Like there's a very few data points that they're selecting from.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're some of the most impactful at the high end, top end of the sport. And then Apollo is kind of the opposite of that, meaning it's got the most data points available. This is Barclays Apollo Performance Analytics rating system that he and I have been working to refine, and he's been inputting data for years and years to get to this point. His rankings are updated even to include Wadapalooza. For example, if you look at the very bottom on the women's side there, Lucy Campbell is 56 now on his rating scale. She was 740 something prior to Wadapalooza, clearly beating the caliber of athlete she did in that field warrants something. There were a lot of shifts actually on this leaderboard. Haley Adams was inside the top 20 before Wadapalooza, but with athletes who competed there that did pretty well and moved up, like Abigail Doma and Lisa Fuliano, who are not on this list, are now inside the top 20 on Apollo. And anyway, so I just wanted to kind of put it out there more as an observation. I think there were 14, I wrote about it in the caption, 14 of the top 20 and 15 of the top 20 for Apollo and Rogue, respectively, on the women's side. But that's like, those are raw numbers. It's actually not counting Tia, who, presumably got invited and turned it down. I mean, I have to assume that based on the caliber of athlete they invited. Gabby, who obviously wouldn't be doing it because she's still recovering from injury. And so, this is just baseline. Those are numbers within the top 20. And I wanted to highlight that mostly to say it's an extremely impressive group of athletes that they've managed to sign for this first year. When you have at least 75% of the top 20 in the world, regardless of which rating system you're looking at, and the ones that are supplementing or filling that out are obviously very competitive as well. I would say the two kind of, I don't know if they're questions or critiques or what, concerns, something like that I saw in the comments for people. I would ask them to say who's going to win. There weren't a lot of people who said who would win. Of course, Jared's got his athletes' backs though.
Sure.
Is about the distribution of the spots, around the world, with the majority of them going to North America, and then the question of did we feel like there were any athletes who what's the term in college basketball when they're doing the selections? Snubbed or something like that?
Snubs.
All-star snubs, something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
snubbed.
and I think that like, first and foremost, you just have to acknowledge what we're talking about. Like, there was no predetermined set of rules that this is how you're getting invite to be signed here. And apart from posts saying that that an athlete signed, we don't actually know any of the conversations that were had about how to decide those, or with athletes who they may have invited that turned it down, because that certainly is also a possibility. Um, but when I just looked at, we'll start with the women because they're up here. And when I just looked at athletes who were not invited, or I shouldn't say that, who were not signed,
Mhm.
that have accolades similar to this. Obviously, there's Tia. I mentioned Abigail Dommett. She's all the way up to 13th on Apollo's worldwide ratings. She's 26th on Rogues. Claudia Gluck is currently 15 in Apollo, 29 on Rogue. Elisa Fuliano, 18 in Apollo, 23 on Rogue. The only athlete who shows up in the top 20 of both on the women's side that's not named Tia and didn't get signed was Karen Freyova. She was 20th in Apollo rating, 19th on Rogue rating. And then if you take out some of the athletes that wouldn't, like, that obviously weren't going to compete, Caroline Stanley would have been 22nd in Apollo's ratings. Those are the only athletes that would have been like inside the top 20 on one or the other rating system that didn't get an invite. And, when I look at this, probably my favorite thing that happened in this signing process, and I'm not sure if it was intentional on the men's side or they backed into it, is that they let Wadapalooza happen and then
Mhm.
they invited Lucy and Austin. The only
Yeah.
thing that really bums me out about this is that they didn't invite Jamie Simmons. Like, we already talked about how good her credentials were, and the fact that they did invite, and I'm not taking anything against these other women, but the fact that they did invite several women after Wadapalooza and they didn't recognize that she's just been destroying once again when she was on the fringe of being a top 10 athlete still 2 years ago before hurting her elbow. Like, if she hasn't done enough, like, this is the problem, in my opinion, with using a system like Rogue, is that it's going to be very limited to specific competitions. And again, not taking into consideration the totality of global fitness.
Yeah.
Jamie, to me, belongs in this field. I talked about last week how it would have been nice to have some athlete from Asia, and I think that Sahar or Sung Young Choi, if you could have gotten them, would have been a good touch to have some representation there. It doesn't take away from the overall caliber of this field or how excited I am to see these women compete 3 times this year. But those are, for people who are asking, those are probably the 2 athletes, even though they didn't show up on those, like, kind of snubbed based on the ranking systems, that I would have been potentially excited to see, just to get a little bit more global representation, and because I think that they've earned it through competition performance, either in the past 2 months or in the past 2 years.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, Jamie is a. I mean, we obviously started the show talking about her, so I mean, yeah, because she hits so many different things. I mean, she's a Kiwi from Oceania. She competes she lives uh in the UAE, but has connections to Europe as well. I mean, you know, yeah, I just think that was kind of a maybe. I don't know, maybe looking back, but at the end of the day, this is you talk about them using rogue ranking. I mean, but this is the only year they'll have to do it. They needed to come out with an initial roster of 20, and this is who they felt on whatever decision. I think you know using the rogue ranking, kind of like what Mayhem's doing, they're using the rogue ranking as well. Is you know because there's really not anything out there. I mean, now you have Apollo, you have some other rankings. I mean, who knows if the games did anything with their rankings? But it's so game. It's only based off the
Well, I
games.
thought I thought about including the games ranking system, but Rogues is better. I mean, it's using basically the games plus Rogue, so it's an
Yeah,
additional data point, and it was something that Will actually mentioned. I haven't heard
yeah,
anybody that's not directly a part of the CrossFit game season really give much credence to that. Personally, I'm biased towards the Apollo rating, and the cool thing was that a lot, like, how close a lot of these ratings end up shaking out anyway. So Rogues,
yeah.
for taking a very small sample size, Rogue seems to be doing a very good job at the
Mhm.
top. But I would argue that once you get like 25 down to 100, that's where you're going to see a
Oh yeah,
lot of bias in Rogues
variance.
that won't exist in Apollos, right?
Yeah. Let's switch over to the men's side. Obviously, yesterday they announced Jeff Adler as their as the final signee. kind of completing that field. But here's what
Well, and I'll
you're.
say this: last week, the last time we were on here, I had said, "Man, it is such a bummer." Not that Jeff is probably going to take the last spot, but that there was only one spot, and that Austin Hatfield wasn't going to get invited to this.
Yeah,
Turns out that they have, for whatever reason, got
contingencies.
a new job for Saxon Panchik, and therefore a spot opened up. I think that they absolutely did the right thing by inviting Austin. He's all the way up to 12th on the Apollo ratings. He's 24th on Rogue, which is pretty good. It's technically not in the top 20, but the kid's clearly talented. I think he's likely to finish in the top 10 for the season of WFP. Uh, I'll be curious to see if he does the game season. I mean, that's like a real thing. Think about just it's a small microcosm, but Wadapalooza. Like when we get to the team competition and you see teams that are fresh compared to teams that have been competing hard for 2 days, it's like, man, it's hard not to go with the fresh guys. And I think that in the case of the 2025 calendar year, athletes that do both the game season and the WFP, no matter how fit they are, will be kind of, I think, limiting themselves in terms of the overall potential at either one. That's not to say that they won't do well at either one, but I think that they could potentially have done better on one or the other if they chose to do it. And we know that there's some athletes on this field that will not be doing the game season. And so when I think about a guy, especially some of the like, not that they're old, but the older guys, like if Fellner and Adler only do the WFP, and they don't have stress of having to worry about qualifiers and all this other stuff. They know exactly which three competitions, or maybe they'll throw in one other one, maybe they'll do Rogue, something like that, that they're going to do this year, that they have a good chance to maximize their potential at these specific competitions, the WFP ones, compared to someone like a Hatfield or a Sprague, who might be just as good, or approaching being better than someone like Fellner. I'm not sure yet. But if they're doing twice as many competitions this year, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, for $25, you can compete against these guys to try to steal their pro card. So right now, the Challenger online qualifier for World WFP is out. World Fitness Project is live. And just looking at some, I mean, you have Spin's in there. I guess he's really leaned into the last name of Spin, huh? But Bruno, I mean, there's some familiar names here. Bruno, Colton Merton. So here's a guy we know that's doing the game season that's going to throw his hat in the WFP season.
I did see some comments about like Colton Mertens, even Taylor Self, as people saying like, why didn't these guys get invites? There were also some questions about Fabian Benito's, Aniola Kai's, these types, and it's
Yeah.
like you got to temper the conversation a little bit. It's not. I don't. We don't know again what they were specifically talking about. But if you just want to look at the numbers, which is what I'll choose to look at here, uh, top 20 rating athletes that didn't get invited, or no, that didn't sign, our annual Akai. He's up to 15th, but he wasn't that high until Wadapalooza. Henrik Kapalainen recovering from injury. Harry Lightfoot is punched inside the top 20. He's 19th on Apollo right now. Saxon, who we know is not, he's participating in it some different way, is 20th. Those guys would all be in the top 20 for Apollo. And then on the Rogue rankings, Sam Cornway would have been 18th. He also was 21st on Apollo, so still showing pretty damn good. Cole Sager 21, Cole Greasaber 22 would have been the next guys on Rogue's rankings. And I think that that's really a good example. Like, just being just realistic about where we're at. I think that Aniola Kai and Harry Lightfoot being 15 and 19 on Apollo, as opposed to Cole Sager and Cole Greasaber being 21 and 22 on Rogue, will show the strength of the Apollo rating system. Those guys are competing in meaningful events against talented athletes currently right now and doing well. Whereas the Rogue system, because it's only taking from a few data points over the past couple of years instead of many, will be a little stale in terms of keeping up to date with the current competitive landscape.
Yeah. Roderick from Meme for Time throwing his hat in there.
Romain, my friend out of France. Ryan Jevning.
Kristen Harrison. Yeah. And let's the females. Caroline Pereira, Dana Perrin, Grace Lochner, Jennifer Muir.
Dana Perrin also doing some grid herself this year.
Man, why are you gonna? Why that was gonna come up later. I had
She's
a
right
whole like
there. She's right there.
no, but I had a whole segue into it. Jesse
That seems
Smith,
like a good segue.
yeah, Lily Burkhead, uh, Matilda. There's our there's Nicolette. Probably has the most probably a great fan club. Norche. We mentioned Sierra Meha. So yeah,
Well,
I'm
yeah, and
sure.
I'm glad to see that Matilda has signed up for that. I mean, here's the thing. There's only 20 invites. It's clearly the opportunity that World Fitness Project is creating for those athletes this year is incredible, right? It's a guaranteed payday with opportunity to earn money on top of that. You got guaranteed 3 prestigious competitions. You've already done the work in your career to earn the invites to sign to be a part of those. And obviously, there's also another path for athletes to earn a tour card for next year. I think that if you are one of these athletes, especially in Europe, Matilda might be a good example. Moritz might be a good example. Harry Lightfoot, Elisa Fuliano, Karen Frey. These are athletes that I kind of feel bad for in this situation because I think most of them are emotionally hurt by CrossFit and not impressed with the way that they handled the fallout of what happened in August. And at the same time, it's probably their best path to the CrossFit Games. Not that some of them have obviously made it before, but there's going to be less kind of obstacles in the way, I think, because some athletes who did get this invite will be doing this instead. And so it's kind of this like unfortunate situation where I think some of them have to try to balance what might feel like the right choice for them, which is maybe to not participate in the CrossFit Games season, against the best opportunity for them as a professional in their career when it comes to earning potential, competing at the highest competitions with the most money on the line, maybe with some sponsorship, opportunities depending on how well they do. So, I mean, obviously everyone has to make these decisions for themselves and we will get to see how it plays out over the course of the year. But I'm hopeful that some of these athletes who feel like they maybe deserve those invites will view it the same way they do when they see, our rankings come out, as that
Yeah,
motivation. Be like, really? You didn't think I was good enough for your competition? That's not what the World Fitness Project is thinking, but that's how I would like an athlete can certainly interpret that. I'm going to throw my name in the ring. I'm going to show up there and I'm going to show you why you should have invited me. And I'm going to earn that tour card next year. Like, don't get me wrong. That's the mentality that James Sprague has had for 4 years. We're just now getting to see the culmination of that. Like,
yeah.
tell me I can't do it. Doubt me.
Mhm.
I'll show you. Like, that's how I hope that Aniol and Harry and Matilda and Elisa and all these athletes perceive this, is that WFP has created an alternative and another good opportunity for athletes to compete and earn money in this sport. And it's not limited to only the signed athletes. You can sign up for the qualifiers. And if you are that good, then you can earn your spot to compete live. You can earn the points and you can get that tour card for 2026.
Yep. You alluded to it earlier, but
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
some grid league action here. I mean, John's in the comments, obviously, but now we have Dana Pran, who Chicago native, someone I'm just a big fan of. Yeah, getting signed by the Sharks. And unlike John, I don't think she's a specialist. I mean, yeah, she's known for her strength, but she's shown that, especially now that she's doing Krieger training, that she's becoming more of an all-round CrossFitter. So this is probably someone that's a good signing by the Sharks. She kind of reminds me of someone very similar to like kind of like Amanda Fisher is. Amanda Fisher isn't a specialist. She's one of their athletes. She can go out there and do a couple stations and all encompassing. So so yeah, congrats to Dana. And again, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see more athletes like her that kind of dipping their toes into to the grid league as well. So one thing about grid league is that it opens them up to other sponsorship opportunities, gets them out there, gets them competing. So we saw Dana's going to do WFP. We don't know what she's going to do in terms of the game season, but here she is. She's doing grid league as well.
I didn't realize John was there. He went for 310. Dude,
Yeah.
savage. I can attest to that fitness does leave you quick, but that's okay. We have a big base to build back up upon.
Yeah.
Yeah, just catching up on some comments. Jamie would have been great. Love her. I hope that she does the qualifiers. I think she would definitely qualify through any online qualifying format. Uh, that seems like an unnecessary comment. Yeah.
I must missed it. But oh, speaking of Apollo released their top 100 rankings as of February 2025. So basically updated after um, Wadapalooza. So
I had seen this. Annie Thorzetter. She's actually still like in the top 10 of the Rogue rankings,
yeah,
just so you can kind of see. Um, but anyway, yes, the top 100 for Apollo are out.
yeah, they are, which is it's a little bit easier to do them through the Apollo World rankings versus how you would do your top 100, 200 because it's all based off the computer. So I know like when you did your 100 or 200 rankings, there's a lot more, there's thought put into it as opposed to a computer thinking. So some interesting names. I really likes where he's going with some of these names. So it's like, yeah, you mentioned Freyova, she's 20th. Gabby was first, which is it's really cool to see Gabby's name there.
Well, I
Um,
mean, look, if you're just looking at this list, what you're going to see is that it's it's the only thing that we really have that's accounting for the totality of competitive outlets that
yeah,
athletes have. And it's not misrepresenting performances. Like,
no,
Luca won Dubai. He's 30th because while it was a good field, it wasn't a strong field compared
mhm,
to Wadapalooza. And at Wadapalooza, athletes like Austin and Aniol and Harry, who did better than him, were rewarded for doing well against a good field in Miami. And this is just like the names I've picked out, but that's more or less what you're going to see. And then you see a guy like Jack Farlow right there, and you're like, what?
no,
Jack Farlow? Like, how is he? It's like
Golden,
well, we talked about it last week. He had one bad competition, and he actually turned it around in the last third of the competition anyway in semifinals. So he had like 1.5 bad days of competition. It just sticks in some people's minds. Apollo throws that out. It doesn't negatively perceive Jack Farlow because he had 3 bad events in a row. It sees the totality of what he's done, which is 2 top 8 finishes at Wadapalooza over the last 2 years, good qualifying results. He was at the games 2 seasons ago, which is still factoring in. Like, so this is why I'm kind of only waiting to see more people take hold of this and realize that this is the best that we have of representing athletes' performances across a global landscape right now.
yeah, that's crazy. Matilda at 49th. Yeah. So
Well, because she's doing well, but she's doing well all in one consolidated
year,
like a couple of months.
yeah,
And I think that Barkley's system is looking for some consistency over time when she took that whole year off for the game season. If she does some individual competitions this year, that will rise quickly. But
yeah,
when you do take an entire year, it's a 2-year look back, which we borrowed from the games. And if you take an entire year and only do team competitions, you're missing half of the available data points, basically, or at least 3 of them. You'd still technically have something from the qualifier phases.
yeah. But Apollo's new rankings out there. If you haven't bookmarked their page, the Apollo website, apolloperform.com, I highly suggest doing that. He's putting new features on there where you can actually compare athletes, I think now. You can search the database. You can see all the, it's constantly like, I'm sure there's competitions here that we're just previewed that Barkley's trying to input right now as we speak. So, um, there's something else. I think we hit all this stuff. There's a couple other things I want to hit on. Is this? I don't know if you saw this because but College Hill, CrossFit, uh, Brittany Weiss and Allison Weiss, they've pretty much been invested in this, and they kind of had like a grand reopening branding, um, and it's just I thought it was just really cool. You hear we hear from a lot of people in the community is like, well, athletes aren't doing anything in the community. And here's 2 athletes that have competed at some of the highest level. It's great seeing someone like Allie, so young, former team champion, is compete at the semifinal level individually and on the team. Kind of just taking the lead on this and just like trying to develop this this new, not maybe like a vision for a community, and then Brittany coming along for the ride as well and helping her out. You got to meet Allie. You and her you took your L1s together.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a chance to interact with both of them over the past year or two in some different ways, and I've also been to the gym. Uh,
Hmm.
2018 regionals, 17 or 18 regionals. I think 17. I dropped in to do a workout there, and yeah, I think about these two as like athletes who've kind of they've gone out from their home. You know, they've gone and lived in different places, done different things, pursued different opportunities, seen some of the world, and they've come back home to the community that they kind of grew up in terms of the gym community, and now they're able to, kind of reinvest back into some of the people that might have invested in them. It has been cool to watch over the past week or two that they've been kind of rolling this out.
Yeah, it's just really cool because especially for young athletes, if you're not making it to the games, you kind of get losing an identity. But I think Allie's kind of found something. She's found something that she's very passionate about, and I think it's cool that Brittany's still trying to compete at a high level, kind of just helping it along. So I think that's really cool, and can't wait to see what happens with that. One other thing before I guess we called it a night, is new article up. Um, says by you. We need to add. We need to add.
It's like,
Uh,
yeah, it's based on whoever inputs it to WordPress, I think.
yeah, yeah. So, but on the our I guess our new contributor, Mesa. She wrote a couple articles this weekend for last weekend at Wadapalooza. One of them was Saturdays for the girls, and so what she did is on Sundays are for the boys. The boys are back in town, so it's kind of a her take on a really good article. I need to tap Fury on that, but but basically just recapping their 2-day run, where especially for her because she was one of those people that didn't think they thought that I wouldn't say washed up. She didn't say washed up, but didn't think they were going to win. And this is good on her to kind of write an article about it and kind of like just saying, yeah, I'm wrong. You guys are good. So
Well, more than anything, it was just impressive. Their performances were exceptional. She contextualizes a little bit of the history of each of them at Miami, at Wadapalooza over the years, and yeah, this was. I feel good for them for having won it, and I was happy she wrote this.
yeah, really cool. So if you get a chance, it's a 6-minute read. Go ahead, I put the link in the chat there. It'll be also in the description, and then I'll put a link up for it on our Instagram as well. But take a read, a 6-minute read, and it'd be really cool. I think that's all I have. Brian, are you doing a Hyrox with PC? I have started running again.
I mean,
I probably need another 2 months.
yeah, we're not going to be making the top tens of any leaderboards, but maybe.
Yeah, I would. I mean, there's like
Dude,
Hyrox.
the only time I did a Hyrox, it was male female pairs,
Yeah.
and there was a tornado warning in the middle of the event, so
Yep.
everybody on the course had to stop and go into the parking garage for like 30 minutes, and then we came
Yeah,
back
right
and
there on
finished. So I don't even
Navy.
know what our time was.
Yeah, it was a Navy Pier, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, but let's see. I think there's a bunch of like competitions going on right now in Hyrox. Like, it's funny. They're all over Europe. Like, this is just. I know this turned into a Hyrox show, right? Like this weekend, Hyrox Switzerland. I wonder if Miriam's doing that. There's one in what is that, France? Hyrox Toulouse, and then Guadalajara. So Mexico, Bilboa. And look, hey, there's you know
Bilbao,
that Bilbao. Sorry, you know that building.
Guggenheim. I wonder, maybe they took that when the rig was out there next to it. Probably
Yeah,
not.
and then they have the European Championships of. Oh, wow, yeah, right there at the
Vienna.
end of the month. Yeah, and then Rotterdam. I mean, there's a shit ton of them. Maybe I'll get in shape and we could do one here in Europe. because obviously they're popping up all over. I mean, it kind of started in Europe. Actually, in Germany, they're really popular. So, next one in the U.S. is Hyrox Houston. That's a big one. I know quite a few athletes have mentioned they're looking at that one. So keep an eye on that. I think there's one in DC as well. Hyrox Shanghai, Hyrox Warsaw. I think Taipei. Let's do Taipei. We've never
Well,
been to Taiwan.
besides possibly Hyrox, I'll be going to Charleston this weekend. We're gonna have a show tomorrow to specifically preview Fittest of the Coast. I was there last year. It'll be my second year going. It's a huge competition. That 1,000+ athletes competing there. Kyle Oland and the crew putting it on. So we'll break that down tomorrow. Workouts, divisions, etc. And I think that's the only competition that I'm traveling to this month, at least. Most of the rest of the winter, I'll be preparing for some other kind of big stuff that we'll have going on throughout the year.
Yeah. And we'll also preview, I mean, you'll preview Fittest of the Coast, and then next next week, we'll recap Fittest of the Coast, and we'll also recap Pixel, um, which is going on this weekend as well, which has a lot of big names. There'll be another opportunity for Apollo to feed its computer brain uh, world tour dates.
World
Oh,
tour dates a little
TBD.
different this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little different. We probably will roll them out a little bit more um,
Yeah.
singularly or monthly, something like that. There's just a lot of conversations that we're having this time of year, and um, the landscape is changing. So we're trying to keep as much of a pulse on it as we can, but probably going to hold on announcing too many dates like this that we have in the past year or two for now.
Yeah, I did. I've been thinking about what you said earlier, where you have your calendar. Maybe that's something where we do start making that available, but with the ones where the dates aren't public, and we ask the permission if we just put the month, so that way at least people have an idea of what month that's happening. Like, we can always assume that Rogue is going to be right around end of October, mid November, or like we don't know about SoCal, but some people would assume that SoCal would be in September, but like reaching out to the competition director, you know, and maybe not putting out the dates, but just putting like an approximate month, and maybe putting those out instead, and kind of owning that calendar. Um, I don't know what you think about that idea.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll start working on something like that for you guys. But I wanted to come to y'all would be at, but can't stop being new. You know us, we won't say anything unless we have the okay to say it. So,
Lynn, you
um,
could also just reach out,
yeah,
we,
out.
with a place to send the hats, and maybe I'll give you some other information.
Yeah, I can tell you what's next. Um, yeah, that's it. Shout out to HER CBD. Hopefully, you guys you went on the site in January where you didn't have a code, got automatic 20% off. Well, it's February now, so now you have to use a code. If you're going to use a code, use was it friend 20? Yeah, friend 20 for 20% off. So if you use friend 20 at checkout on HERCBD's website, which is in the description, you get 20% off all your purchases. So, um, yeah, those kind
Nope, not selling any hats currently. I don't think we're selling any merchandise currently. Maybe at
of,
some point down the line, but for now they're collector's items.
yeah, yeah. I think that's it. Hey, this is like a record short show for us.
No, it's perfect. This is
Yeah,
last week was an anomaly. This is normal.
yeah, it was an anomaly. It's 3 hours. Yeah. Um, Yeah. So yeah, we'll see you back same time tomorrow, 8 o'clock German time. What is that? 1 o'clock Central for you?
Hmm.
Yeah. For we'll preview Fitness of the Coast. Hopefully maybe have a guest on, and then next week we'll recap what happened that weekend, and maybe try to bring another guest on next week. It's been a while since we talked. I mean, I know we had Guy on and George Sterner on, but it was fun talking those athletes again. And
And Noah. We had
Man,
Noah
well,
on.
I can't forget about
I
Noah.
actually I got that Red Bull. I got a bunch of Red Bull over here.
Did you get the oh, you just got the Rebel, you didn't get the fridge yet?
Not the fridge, but I got 4 cases of stuff.
Nice.
I haven't opened them yet. They're just I
Nice.
opened the boxes. I haven't opened the case.
Alright. Did you send, Aria a message saying thank you?
It's on my list for today. I'm gonna take a picture and send it to her
Okay. You should post it too. Tag Red Bull.
at the right time.
Big Red Bull guys. I love Red Bull. I mean, I think that was the drink I switched to at the after party. Yeah, to keep myself going. Switched to Red Bull. Good times. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys being here. We know you could be at so many different places at this time of day. Spend your time doing other things, but we're glad you get to do it with us. Uh, in the words of Pat McAfee, you know, no, I'm just kidding. No, but in any case, hey, you know, going through a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. I mean, not just in the U.S. but the world. But yeah, yeah. Thanks, ironically. Hit that like button, friends, and yeah, just be friendly. Be friendly. Are